Travis Wayne Goodsell. We're gonna rock in the cradle two little birds with one stone in a hat. I don't really like killing birds. And they've always been a favorite of mine since I was in first grade. But that's a different story. So there's two issues with the church. The one is the main video that I'm hoping will be short. The other is some curious things that have been going on this week. It's got me curious because, as I'm sure all of you who watch recently my videos are aware, that there are patterns leading to a massive major event in church history on Friday. Now, whether it happens, we'll have to wait and find out. If it doesn't happen, then I've got to go back to the theory and figure out what happened and revise it. But my goodness, somebody up there is pissed with the church prophets, specifically Nelson, as these are the latter days. And there are certain things that must be done to protect Mormons in the latter days, and they are not getting done. And so, one of the things is the postponing of the temple. That can have numerous implications, but for those of you who are well aware, the church watches my videos, or at least gets reports on them, and sends back communications to me, as they've destroyed my life. And so for me, I have to be very cautious to watch the signals, to watch the billboard on my morning runs, to pay attention to who's showing up and who's an anomaly, what's an anomaly, so that I can not be caught unaware, because YouTube likewise are out to get me, under orders of the church or on their own rogue, thinking they're protecting the church from criminal activity, committing criminal activity for the church. Likewise, Mormons. And so for the temple to be extended is kind of significant, because if you've been paying attention, the prophets are supposed to notify Mormons of signs in the heavens, because they claim to be revelators. What good is it to have the title and not do any revelating, revealing? And so with the latter days, why are they letting all these signs in the heavens slip by them? It's kind of a failure on their part. If that's what all it was, God wouldn't be as pissed as he clearly is, from what I've noticed. And so, separating the temple completion away from a certain Revelation 19 star date catches my attention. But knowing Utah contractors, as I do, I can see them pulling a fast one on the church too. But if that were it, I would just let it go like I did the first time I heard about that. But there's other things that have been going on. Nelson announced yesterday he's doing a YouTube video for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And the church news, thinking they were going to remind their viewers or readers about Nelson's previous one last year during Thanksgiving, and summarizing it for us, exposing the church or Nelson as having violated medical information. He provided medical misinformation in his over 12 million viewed video last year, of which YouTube refused to ban, take down, and instead came after me for pointing that out. So that's part of the corruption and crimes of YouTube protecting the church. And so for him to come out for Christmas, see, the reason why it was Thanksgiving and not Christmas last year is because there's always a Christmas devotional from the first presidency. And so in this particular case, I did video after Thanksgiving. Oh, Nelson didn't do a video this year. And so, return and report, doing one for Christmas. But it's on Thursday, not Friday, not Sunday, not even next week, because it's social media. You can prearrange it, and when I tried to do it, it didn't automatically click, and so I had to go in and click to have it happen. But social media, all you need is computer access, and the person who's in charge of pressing the button can do it from home. And so why a week before, on a Thursday, when it's obvious Thursday will be their final meeting of the year as a prophet group. So they can be home for Christmas, spend time with their families. And so that it's very weird. And again, if you've noticed my quick videos, which this isn't turning out to be very quick, is it? According to the church's latter-day prophecies, the president of the church, not just the kings of the world, and the president of the United States and Congress, are supposed to hand over their governments to Jesus. And so likewise, the president of the church has to hand over the first presidency to Jesus. And so we would assume they would fall back into the 12 apostles to be the 15 apostles. I'm sure Jesus will tell us how to run things. Maybe he'll start emeritus status for the apostles. And so that also is very curious, because would the president of the church actually hand over authority and keys to the rightful king? And if it's Jesus, obviously he would. But I've been going over with you, he's supposed to be a mortal man, born of mortal parents, through the church. would they give it up for just a regular Mormon? Would they know who to look for? And so I've been teaching you in these videos for the last 5 years now. It was 2017. So, yeah, going on 5. About all that must be done in accordance with the church. Teaching you about the church. When I started researching church history, I would do the videos explaining what I've found. And ex-Mormons should also be paying attention, because ex-Mormons do not put the pieces together. They know that Joseph Smith used a rock and a hat, and claim that Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the Book of Mormon, but still say that Joseph Smith translated or wrote the Book of Mormon. And so those contradictions in ex-Mormonism can be solved if they would simply put the pieces of the puzzle together. And unfortunately, I'm the only one that's been doing that. And so, another thing that came out today, as yesterday, and the video is coming out tomorrow morning. Well, now today, they finally got around to having the completed updates for the General Handbook finished and are available online. The history behind the General Handbook is that it was a super secret sacred document only for church leadership. And so if you're a regular Mormon, even if you're a Melchizedek priesthood holder, you do not get to see it. And then they split it so that there was one for lower level ward membership, and then one for the coveted upper leadership that only stake presidents and bishops would have access to. And they sued Gerald and Sandra Tanner when they published the handbook at that time online, because they didn't want it known to the world. And so it is strange, but not for me, because again, I look for patterns and test to find out what's going on. And sure enough, whenever there was an upcoming judgment in my lawsuits against the church, they would release the handbook. And so, following that pattern, sure enough, today, being the day before the last day that they will be at the offices for the year, they came out with the General Handbook again. And this comes from the Doctrine and Covenants, section 101's parable. And the handbook I've gone over with you is wrong. It casts association away from the presidents of the church to consider them infallible. But they can't do anything wrong. It's not them, it's Mormons. But who's the olive trees then? And so they'll say, oh, well, those are the stakes. But who's in the stakes? It's not the buildings. Dear God. And so, yes, verse 51 is crucial for prophecy. If Joseph Smith is a prophet, this is going to happen to the church. And the enemy came by night and broke down the hedge. And the servants of the nobleman arose and were affrighted and fled. And the enemy destroyed their works. That would be the buildings. And broke down the olive trees. That would be the Mormons. This is a prophecy put in parable for Mormons of the latter days. We're in the latter days. Finally, after 200 years, we're there. This is it. So I keep searching, checking, found it. We're now testing it. Because of the connections to the destruction of Jerusalem through the dating. Like I said, everything converges on this. The signs in the heavens, the death pool of God. If you've seen that Clint Eastwood movie, Deadpool, and in association, I have been doing and have it already set up for tomorrow's video, the final day before. But yeah, this is a fleeing tell that they want to be prepared in case this does happen. Because if somebody comes in and destroys the church, they need to have somebody to pick up the ball and run with it again in the future. Just like as they have experience. After Joseph Smith was assassinated, Brigham Young picked up his own ball, claimed it was Joseph's ball, and ran out of the country, fled the country. Because section 107 verse 22 was how the church was supposed to be run and succeed him upon his death one way or another. See, Joseph, he was the guy. It's him, nobody else. He had assistants and counselors, but Joseph was the guy. Hiram, his brother, and thus his father before him, were prophets, seers, revelators. Joseph was the only translator. Hiram was patriarch, thus senior. Prophet, seer, revelator, patriarch. So who wrote the 116 pages again? And so it was an exclusive club who knew the origins of the church. And so Joseph Smith can't just trust it to anybody, especially some one person who's popular in the church. He's got to figure out a way to ensure that his church will continue. Well, nobody did it. Nobody followed his requirements for succession. Verse 22 in section 107. Of the Melchizedek priesthood, 3 presiding high priests. No counselors here. See, in verse 21, there are presiding officers growing out of the various quorums. So you have a president, and they can have counselors. There's another passage that says that they're supposed to have counselors, 2 counselors. And Joseph didn't follow that. He had more than 2 counselors. There have been others who have had more than two. Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. went back to only having two, and going back to wearing the original Brigham Young temple garments, or the magic underwear garments, but allowed Mormons to wear the upgraded versions. But right here, very clear, of the Melchizedek priesthood, 3 presiders, not 1. See, with a family organization, they don't even say that both the husband and the wife preside. That's how it's supposed to be. So that no decision goes through unless it's approved by both. But when you get a power-hungry wife, not like I have experience with that, God, she wanted to wear the pants in the family. She thought it was hilarious that the prophet said that I was supposed to preside, and I let her do whatever she wanted. And still, that wasn't enough. She wanted it all. And so she had to leave. God, that's not how you have a happy marriage. But not only 3, they are chosen by the body of the Melchizedek priesthood. An actual vote for the 3. So why didn't Brigham Young do that? Could it be he didn't want to work with Sidney Rigdon? Nothing would get done. Yep. So instead, he redesigned it and said, oh, well, my 12 is to succeed with the president of the Quorum of the 12 to become the president, because I'm that guy, so it's me who's to succeed. Oh, how convenient. It's not scripturally based, but convenient for you. And thus it is still to this day. How convenient. And so instead they say a sustaining vote. We thank you for your sustaining vote. If there's anybody opposed, we encourage you to go to your stake president for excommunication. That's not how it's supposed to be done. The Melchizedek priesthood chooses by vote. And the vote is final. The top 3 are in. And, verse 27, every decision made by either of these quorums must be by the unanimous voice of the same. So Nelson can no longer be rogue. His 2 counselors, which are now presidents with Nelson, though they give him the title of president, don't they? Must all agree in order to get anything done in the church. So William, the remaining brother, because Samuel was murdered soon thereafter by poisoning. So William was also a candidate. And there was some high councilmen. What? You mean there were stakes? Stake high council? No, they're not high enough. No. Again, there are other changes for the administration under Brigham Young. The High Council was the High Council, not Brigham's 12. So he pulled a fast one over people. Real bad dude. And so a majority may form a quorum when circumstances render it impossible to be otherwise. In other words, you can have two presidents and still keep things going, and you can wait for a vote for the third person to fill the gap. But once you have one president, nope. You got to have the Melchizedek priesthood choose the remaining two. And so the removal would be by the Melchizedek priesthood. They put them in, they got to take them out. But because this was not done, something else is coming. And it's been prophesied. Joseph himself prophesied it. That there is one man like Joseph, like Moses, one mighty and strong, who is to be the guy. And as I've told you, he can't be the guy without the she. Oh no, it's a trap. There cannot be a Christ for the millennium unless there's a she involved. And so, in that particular instance, there is nothing mentioned other than the 17 March 1842, which is to be a pattern with the Melchizedek priesthood, or the priesthood in the men's organizations. But whether women choose the Relief Society president, that doesn't seem... Well, I guess if you're doing threes, yeah. After Emma dies, the Relief Society would then gather and vote for the three replacements for the Relief Society president as well. And so then the latter days, the Christ of Mormons, the mortal man born of mortal parents, and the female born of mortal parents would be the ones united for the millennium. So I would assume after they die, then it would go back to selecting of three again. So it wouldn't be a husband and wife team, unless a family descent, which is scriptural, Old Testament, but scriptural. So, yeah, that's some weird things going on with the prophets that have caught my attention. And they know. They won't let you know that they know. But they know. And they know my videos. And they're communicating back. And so I'm well aware of what's going on. And I'm trying to let you guys know. So that you will know, not only that I know, but that they know too. Whether you believe me or not. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, won't it? Because the most simplest explanation, Occam's razor, is that Nelson will just do a fluff piece. Oh, Jesus, light of Christmas, yay! And nobody will realize that he just talked about a false god to you. Because you're unfamiliar with the passage of the seed of Messiah. Yep, still have it in there. Moses chapter 7, and it's verse 53, but he talks about the seed of Enoch, children of Noah, and so then, blessed is he through whose seed Messiah shall come. And this is why I pick on Nelson so severely, is because Nelson is supposed to be a translator, and he claimed that he'd studied all about the gathering, which is the key of Moses for the first presidency, the first president, of which he's supposed to be in, and he got it wrong. That's why Jacob was such a pivotal event. He usurped the birthright and blessing from Esau, so that the seed of the Messiah no longer comes through Esau, but now comes through Jacob. And so Judah is of prime significance, which is phonetically the same as Utah, who betrays his brother, who's the birthright blessing son, Joseph. Just as Judas betrays that Jesus character, created as real and historical by Constantine at the first creed of all creeds, which are an abomination in the sight of Jesus? In the first vision? Can't find Jesus anywhere. Strange. So yeah, the Messiah didn't come from mortal seed, if you're going to claim it's Jesus. Mary doesn't have seed. She has egg. And so it's not Heavenly Father, because clearly they're talking about Enoch's seed, Noah's seed, and then thus Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Ephraim, Judah. So it's not Heavenly Father, as Mormon doctrine currently is. This is mortal seed, going back in time to the first humans that were in Africa below Egypt. My dad's side, the DNA has been able to connect him all the way back to 300,000 BCE. On my mom's side, 200,000 BCE. They were in different locations, but they weren't related until emerging through migration up into Egypt, following the Nile. All that from my DNA. So yeah, no 4,000 BCE. And so this is the Messiah of Mormons. And so Jesus, he's a false god. And that's what Moses warns. That's what Joseph warns. See, Joseph in section 85, taking from Moses in Deuteronomy 18, talks about the death like a vivid shaft of lightning. Ex-Mormons are aware of this. Mormons live in denial. When Joseph Smith was murdered, they found that he had on his possession a Jupiter stone. And the Joseph Smith Sr. Holiness to the Lord parchment, which he got when he was with the New Israelites in Vermont. It's a star chart. It has the symbol of Jupiter on it. But the symbol of the personage of Jupiter, not the star planet of Jupiter, is the lightning bolt. And there's more, because Jupiter is also associated with an eagle and with the oak tree. Oak tree. Where do we have oaks in the United States? Well, Oakland, California, by San Francisco, a city of merchants, you might say, in the United States, symbolized by the eagle. Yes, we're going to a prophecy in Ezekiel on this one. I've gone over it before, but since it's part of the topic, looks like I might be doing this for tomorrow. We'll see. 17. La, da, 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 da. And the word of the Lord came unto me, Ezekiel, saying, Son of man? That's what Jesus said, who is coming in the latter days. It's all over. John in Revelation, Son of man, Son of man, Son of man, Son of man, Son of man. Here, Ezekiel, an actual man, is called Son of Man. Mortal man, mortal parents. Just like the Messiah for Mormons. Put forth a riddle, and speak a parable unto the house of Israel. And say, Thus saith the Lord God, a great eagle with great wings, long-winged, full of feathers, which had diverse colors, came unto Lebanon. I'm willing to bet it's Beirut, Lebanon. Why would I say such a thing? Why would I make such a bet? Because of the Egyptian story from where this came from. And took the highest branch of the cedar, the cedars of Lebanon. He cropped off the top of his young twigs and carried it into a land of traffic. He set it in a city of merchants. So the parable is talking about a twig being taken from Beirut, Lebanon, to a foreign country and being planted in the foreign country. So where in the world are there any close trees to those of the cedars of Lebanon, and the redwoods, and the oaks? You see Jupiter in this. You see Jupiter in Joseph's. Because he knew about Jupiter. Let's go to the Joseph Smith translation to finish it off. Gotta go to study aids. Revelation chapter 12, and this ties into Friday, because Joseph Smith Sr., with Sidney Rigdon, paying him for his work on the Book of Mormon, moved verse 5 to verse 3 to make that part of the sign of the conception and the birth. It's technically the birth. Conception is not indicated there, but it's understood as being a pregnancy period before the birth. So which planet of the 5 visible planets retrograde in Virgo's womb for a pregnancy period? That would be Jupiter. You see how they're doing this? They knew the significance of Jupiter, and they were trying to let us know. without letting us know, because there was an enemy threat to America that they had to hide from, but they found out, and they had him assassinated, and they took over their church, and they fled the country, and they've been the great and abominable church ever since. And the prophets of that great and abominable church, the false prophets prophesied for the latter days, know it. So yes, verse 4, 12:4 was 12:3, and that was on the 17th of December, 2017, the first year of the latter days. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but the prophets are obviously preparing plan B to flee. But like I said, Oaks would be the one to take over if it's just Nelson who dies. Why would they have a plan B to flee? We'll have to wait and see. Because technically we're still in the middle of the tetrad. We still have 2 lunar eclipses next year. Because in 2014, 2015, the deaths of the prophets fitting the pattern didn't occur until after the 3rd one. Conference morning. So we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, it looks like this will go up tomorrow morning. So it'll be before the 8 o'clock unless another power outage happens. The sign on Earth of darkness for the celestial darknesses for the latter days. So you guys did catch that, right? This is part of the signs of the latter days. And right in the week of. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen tomorrow. We had the hack, which the church caused because they paid Russia for the hack, the ransomware hack. And so then today, boom, power outage in response by God. He's pissed. But he's waiting for the big one. But tomorrow Nelson is going to come out and speak the words that are not from the true Christ. How pissed do you think he's going to be there? Well, we're already given the answer in Deuteronomy, and in Acts, and in the church history of Joseph Smith, and in section 85, verse 8. So upon waking up, I decided to add this at the end of this video. Mormons have a role to play, and this is the intent for which the Book of Mormon was written. Wherefore I, Moroni, am commanded to write these things, that evil may be done away, and that the time may come that Satan may have no power upon the hearts of the children of men, but that they may be persuaded to do good continually, that they may come unto the fountain of all righteousness and be saved. It's not just an automatic thing that, the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, is now in charge. Mormons still have to do their part.